Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me today and welcome back to the channel for my second Pokemon Crystal playthrough and my second YouTube video as well. Today is the second of the starter videos that I'm going to be doing. We're going to see if I can beat Pokemon Crystal using just a Feraligatr. Now my last video did see me take on Pokemon Crystal with a Typhlosion. And Typhlosion did really well. It actually did a lot better than I thought it would. Other than Claire and Lance, it didn't really have too many issues, and it went way beyond my expectations, and I am expecting the same to be the case for this video as well. I am expecting Feraligatr to not only finish at a lower level, but at a faster time than I did with Typhlosion. With that out the way, let's get down to this. I pick up starter. The rules for this run: I can only use my starter in battle, can't use any items except for Pokeballs to catch HM slaves, and I can't use any glitches or exploits either. So yeah, with looking at Feraligatr, it's got great attack and defense. Its special does leave a little bit to be desired, and its speed isn't great either, so I do foresee us being outspeed by some of the more solid Pokemon, which may cause an issue for us, but it does seem like it is going to be a heavy hitter for us, so that's going to be great. And with it being a pure water type, it's not going to have too many issues. The only weaknesses we have to overcome is going to be grass and electric, and we don't have those gyms in Johto, so that's great. I do take the time to take on some of the wild Pokemon, and then we do get to the rival. Now against the Chikorita, because it's quite bulky, I do use Leer just to take down some of its defense, and then it does go for Growl, which isn't great and basically makes the last Leer useless. I just then decide to go for Scratch and just start hacking away at its health. It hits us with a critical hit tackle, which again isn't great, and then we get a critical hit of our own and beat the rival, so that's great. On the way to Violet City, I do take on some of the optional Pokemon trainers there, and that is just so that I can get some levels up. We're going to bypass Sprout Tower and just going to go straight towards the gym, and the reason I'm going to do that is because it's going to be much easier for Totodile in this instance, with it being a water type, and Sprout Tower isn't really you don't really need to do that. It's not mandatory to do that to progress through the game. So I'm just going to bypass that, maybe come back to it later, maybe not. But we're just going to go straight to the gym first of all. And I mentioned previously that we learn Rage, which is a solid move in Generation 2, especially in the early game, because every time that we get hit with an attack while using Rage, its power increases, so it does make things, especially in the earlier game when Pokemon don't have too much HP, it does make things quite easy. Now, speaking of easy, we take on Faulkner without even healing. I begin to go for Rage, and after 3 Rages, we do take out his Pidgey, and we are left with half health, so maybe I should have taken on Faulkner after healing. His Pidgeotto hits with a big gust, and we are only left with 5 HP before we are finally able to take down the Pidgeotto, and then we do heal before we make our way to Azalea Town. Once we're there, we see Kurt, and then we begin to take on the Rockets in the Slowpoke well. Now, again, that used to disturb me so much as a kid. Those poor Slowpokes having their tails cut off. In the last video, the second to last trainer did give us quite a few issues, so I'm going to take him on now and just see if we do get the same issues that we had before. I take out his Rattata fairly easily, and now is the Zubat that loves to use Supersonic, and it does right there. We hit ourselves in Confusion. It goes for Leech Life. We hit ourselves again in Confusion. I'm getting deja vu from this. And again, we're left with half health, and we actually lose to that Zubat. When I take him on the second time, I'll go for Rage. I probably should have used Water Gun, to be honest with you, but we do finally take out this Zubat, and then out comes his last Zubat. Rage almost takes it down, and then we do finish it off with a second Rage, and that's that Grunt beaten. We take on the leader of the Slowpoke well, and we get poisoned by his coughing, so this isn't really looking great for us. We're left with 7 HP, and then we do finally take him down, and while I'm taking on the trainers in Bugsy's gym, we do evolve into a Croconaut. Speaking of the man himself, here's Bugsy. He starts off with his Metapod, and I go for Water Gun first of all, just to see if we can beat it, and it does just over half. So what I'm going to do is, because it didn't take on the Metapod, I'm going to start using Rage, just because if it didn't take out the Metapod, it's probably not going to take out Scyther. I beat Kakuna without too much issues, and up next is the Scyther itself. I go for Rage. It goes for Fury Cutter first, but we do about half, and then the second rage does finally take it out, and that's Bugsy dealt with. So now we do move on to the second rival, and I'm a little bit nervous about this, to be honest with you, because Bayleaf, we don't really have anything that can take it out. I use Water Gun on Ghastly and it goes for Lick, and then we do take it out with a second Water Gun. Bayleaf's out next, and Rage does absolutely nothing, and Razor Leaf does so much damage to us. We're probably not going to win this fight. We get closer than I thought we would, and I do teach Fury Cutter before the next battle. Should have done that beforehand. Ghastly goes for Hypnosis and misses, so I do try and build up Fury Cutters before we are put to sleep, so that's not great. We're still asleep, and it's just taking us down with licks, and we're still asleep, so that ain't great. And we do wake up, we do only have 39 HP, and Fury Cutter, all I can really do is build it up. We get that crit, which is awesome. And Bayleaf, will it be a one shot? A critical hit certainly helps, so that's Bayleaf taken down. And Zubat, I hope we should win. Water Gun does about half, and we're confused again. Oh, we hit ourselves in confusion. Bite, thankfully. Oh man, we hit ourselves again in confusion. Water Gun doesn't take it out. 1 HP, and that hopefully should be it. Yeah, we don't hit ourselves in confusion, which is great. That was awful, but we beat Rival 2, and we just move on to Whitney as not much happens. I do beat the trainers on the way to Whitney, and I'm not too worried about Whitney, to be honest. We do have Fury Cutter, so I'm just going to build that up against the Clefairy, and then hopefully by the time Milk Tank comes out, it shouldn't take too many hits. Obviously, Fury Cutter isn't 100% accurate, so that's not great, but against the Milk Tank, we take it out in one hit, which is awesome, and then we do move on to the Sudowoodo. Now, this gave us quite a few issues in the last game. It didn't beat us, but it shouldn't be too many. It shouldn't give us any issues here. Water Gun does about half. A second Water Gun takes it to red health, and then I do finish it off with Bite, and we do move on to the third rival. So let's see if I can take him down first turn. He sends out Haunter first of all, and I go for Water Gun, and he outspeeds, laying a curse on us, so that's awful. And I'm going to go for Bite. It outspeeds again and paralyzes us, and that was what I was talking about at the beginning of this video. We're not the fastest Pokemon out there, so there are instances where we are going to get outsped. We're paralyzed against a Magnemite, and we've lost that fight. So I'm going to try again, as we did get a little bit unlucky with the curse and the paralysis. I'm going to go for Bite, and no, it doesn't take it down. We're then paralyzed again with Lick, and we're fully paralyzed, so we can't attack, and then I do take it down with Bite. And up next, it's going to send out Magnemite. I go for Water Gun this time, just to see what it does. We take it to about half. It hits with a massive Thunderbolt. We don't take it out with the second Water Gun, and we are left with 3 HP, and we're paralyzed. So this again is a foregone conclusion. Doesn't matter what I go for. Yeah, Razor Leaf takes us down. On the rematch, again, Razor Leaf, we cursed in this fight. Razor Leaf takes us down. So I teach Gustav Ice Punch. I was kind of saving it for Lance, and I figure that we're not at the highest level, so I'm going to train against the Kimono girls. So I have this pretty back and forth battle here with the Umbreon. Umbreon is a tank, and our special isn't the best, but we do take it down despite many sand attacks. But here was a problem. Again, we're getting outsped by the Jolteon, and we actually get taken down by the Jolteon as well. So it hits it with Thunder Shock, and I actually take on this Jolteon quite a few times, but in the end I teach Dig to Croconaut. I for some reason didn't think that it could learn Dig, but it does, and we take out the Jolteon fairly easily. Now we're leveled up with no Dig and Ice Punch, so this should be a lot more consistent than the previous battle. I go for Dig against the Haunter, and it's a one shot, so that's great. Magnemite again should be a one shot with Dig, so I'm going to go for Dig now. It is 4 times super effective, and it is a one shot, so that's great. Out next he's going to send out Bayleaf. I'm going to go for Ice Punch, and it does just over half. Razor Leaf does half to us, so we take it down with the second Ice Punch. Again, that's great. Zubat's next, and I don't know whether it will be a one shot. It is, that's great, and the rival's been dealt with, so now it's time to move on to Morty. So with Morty, again, Dig should make this fairly easy. The Gengar may outspeed us, so that's not going to be great, but we'll just have to see. I hit Ghastly with Bite. Up next is Haunter. I'm going to go for Dig this time, and it does take it out, so that's awesome. Now's the moment of truth. Will Gengar outspeed? It does. It puts us to sleep, so that's not great. Dream Eater does so much damage. Thankfully, we wake up and Dig. I don't know if we needed the critical hit, as Gengar isn't the tankiest, and it's pretty much a glass cannon. Next Haunter, again, is a one shot. So that was a bit scary, and thankfully now we do evolve into Feraligatr. So, I mean, that was a bit of a heart pounding match, to be honest with you, especially when we got put to sleep. I did think that was going to be the end of the match, but we did wake up, so that's great. We battle the trainers in the lighthouse and speak to Jasmine, and then we go over to Cinnabar City and we take out the trainers in Chuck's gym. So can the descendants of Bruno give us a challenge? Start off against these two trainers, one with the Hitmonlee. I've taught Surf to Gustav in the meantime, and we take out Hitmonlee in 2 shots, so that's great. The next guy has his Hitmonchan, and we're at pretty good health here, so I do think this is going to be a fairly easy match. I'll go for Dig, and it gets a critical hit, but it doesn't quite take it down. Thunder Punch doesn't really do too much, and we do beat the Hitmonchan. And up next is the gym leader. We're going to see if we can take out Trilk here. So first thing he's going to do is send out his Primeape. So let's see if Surf can one-shot. It can't, okay, but Leah's not too bad. So I'm going to go for Surf again. Awesome. Poliwrath is next now. Got no choice but to use Dig here. And it looks like it'll be a 5 or 6 shot. Thankfully it goes for Dynamic Punch, and then it hits Dynamic Punch. Great. So I was just about to say how great it is that it's starting to go for Dynamic Punch and missing, but it hits. We're confused. We did take it out. Bit worrying there, the fact that we were confused, but thankfully Arceus was looking down on us and we didn't hit ourselves in confusion. So that's Chuck dealt with and beaten. So now it's time to move on to Jasmine, and I'm not too concerned about Jasmine. We do have Dig for the Magnemite and Surf for the Steelix, and they don't really have anything to hit us. Surf one-shots the Magnemite, so that's great. Sends out the second Magnemite. I'm just going to go for Dig here, and yeah, we take it out. That's awesome. And now Steelix. I don't know if Surf will be a one-shot because it is quite bulky, but let's just see. And it is. Okay, that's awesome. So that's 3 for 3 here. And we beat Jasmine. So that's awesome. That is 6 badges done. And on the way to Mahogany Town, we do pick up the red Gyarados. Because, I mean, you've got to pick it up. Do the rocket plot line, and then we are here, standing in front of our deadliest foe yet. It is time to see what Price can do. So he sends out his seal first of all. Now, we should one-shot here with Bite. Okay, we don't, and we get the critical hit. Okay, so that means that we're most likely not going to one-shot the Dugong. I'm going to go for Dig instead. Okay, no, Headbutt, that's fine. Does barely any damage to us. And we'll take it out of there with Bite. Okay, that's great. Now, Polyswine. Surf should take it out. And it does. Okay, awesome. So that is 7 badges down, and now it is time to do the rest of the rocket plotline. So, I mean, really, Feraligatr has been really consistent here. We've not had any issues, to be honest with you, and it's really good. Apart from my silly mistakes, it's been quite fun to play as Feraligatr, and just makes it all the more painful to know that soon it'll be Meganium, and I don't think we're going to breeze through the game as easy as we are now. Wheezing should take a hit, so we do. That's awesome. And yeah, final coughing again, we should take it out pretty, and we do. So there's really not much to really discuss when it comes to this battle here. Again, it's just pressing A. Again, this is probably the weakest side of Gen 2, to be honest with you. So without any further ado, let's move on to the rival. So Golbat's first, and Ice Punch takes it down with 1 shot. Next is Magnemite, and again Dig. We're at a really high level compared to his Pokemon. So Dig, 4 times super effective, does take it out, so that's nice. Meganium, again, should be a 1 shot with Ice Punch. It's not, so that's quite surprising, but Meganium is fairly tanky. Haunter's out next. I'm going to go for Dig here, and we do take it out, so that's great. And then finally Sneasel. So again, Sneasel, as long as we can outspeed, but again, it shouldn't be an issue. We're at such a high level, and it's not. so that's awesome. So while we go on to the rest of the Rocket playthrough, I do just want to take a moment just to appreciate Feraligatr here. It has been a much more smoother run, I think, than Typhlosion. Even though Typhlosion was really fun to play, it did get held up a little bit by Whitney, but other than that, it wasn't until Claire and Lance that it really struggled, and I really don't see Feraligatr having the same issues. It knows Ice Punch, so Claire hopefully will be fairly easy, and Lance again will be fairly easy as well. So I do think overall, so far, Feraligatr has been the better Pokemon to use. The only time it's really been held up is when I've made stupid decisions or not taught moves at the right time. And that's not really a fault of the Pokemon. One thing I do think it suffers with is prior to Generation 4, the types of moves determined whether or not they were physical or special. So water type move, no matter what the move is, would always be a special type move. Same with Ice Punch, same with Bite. So Dark as well was a special type in Generation 2. So Bite, even though it's a physical move, was a special move in Generation 2. So for that reason, I think that's the only negative that I can really think of for Feraligatr, and that's not really anything that's its fault, to be honest with you. That's just the way the mechanics were, similar to the Gen 1 badge boost glitch. It's something that you can't help, so it's still done really well, and its special's not awful. It's not quite as bad as its speed. It only means that a couple of moves that really should have been a one-shot are sometimes a two-shot, which gives the opponent a chance to sort of mess us up a little bit. In the rare instances, they can be a three-shot. But with that out of the way, Rockets are beaten. Time to move on to Cool Trainer Lola. Now, if you remember in the last video, she gave us so many issues, but not this time. Dratini is a one-shot with Ice Punch. Dragonair, I'm hoping will be the same. I don't think we needed that crit, and that's Cool Trainer Lola that's been defeated there. Up next is Claire, and her Dragonair is a one-shot, so that's great. Will we do 2 for 2? Yeah, we've done that. That's awesome. Can we do 3? I really wish I could do like a count impression right now, but yep, that's 3 taken down, but that's not my shtick either. And now it's time for Kingdra Ice Punch, probably a 3 hit. We are paralyzed, so that's awful. Ice Punch, she heals with a Hyper Potion, so that's not great. I'm going to hit again with Ice Punch. It does a bit more damage here. Hyper Beam really doesn't do too much to us, and that is the match. We take out Claire, so that's awesome. Time to move on to the Elite Four. On the way, I do pick up the TM for Earthquake, and we do have that rival battle before we can take on the Elite Four. Go for Surf against Sneezy, and it takes it out in one shot. That's awesome. Up next is Magneton, and Dig is a one shot, so that's awesome as well. Meganium, now we haven't been able to one shot it yet, can we now? No, so okay, we get the freeze, which is great, but Meganium is really tanky, so we didn't one shot, but we did take it out. Golbat is a one shot. Haunter's up next. Again, should be a one shot. I'm going to go for Bite just to see how much it does. Awesome, yeah, we do take it out. And then Outlast is Kadabra, so yeah, there we go. One shot on the Kadabra. And we are moving on to the Elite Four. We are 2 levels lower than the Typhlosion was when it needed to beat Claire. So it's going to be interesting to see how well we can do in this matchup. Up first is Will. So Zatu, he sends out. And I'm going to hit Ice Punch. And we one shot, so that's great. Up next is the Executor. And Ice Punch again is a one shot, so that's great. Can we do 3 for 3 again? I'm going to go for Bite. And we don't one-shot the Jinx, so that's a little bit disappointing. But we do want 2-shot, and Psychic doesn't really do too much damage. I don't think we're going to one-shot the Slowbro since we didn't one-shot the Jinx, and we don't. Goes for Amnesia, and we do take it out with the second Bite. Zatu, going to go for Ice Punch. And we do take it out. And that is Elite Four Trainer Will. That's been defeated. So now it's time to move on to Koga. I teach Earthquake, and let's just see how well we can do against Koga. He sends out Area Dose first of all, and I'm going to I like to have my moves in a certain order. I guess that's the OCD in me. I go for Surf, and we do take it out. Up next is Venomoth, and we should take it out with Surf. We don't, okay, and we get Toxic, so that's not great. Fortress is next. I'm going to go for Earthquake. It protects. It does like to stall. So the fact that we've got Toxic isn't great, and it's stalling us out, and we are now down to orange health, so that's not great. Muck, I'm hoping should be a one-shot with Earthquake. It is. Okay, that's great. Up next is Crobat. Can we one-shot with Ice Punch? We don't. Okay. This is looking bad. It goes for double team. A full restore isn't what I want to see. We miss. And yeah, we get taken out by Koga. That's pretty awful. But again, I think we were quite unlucky in that match. So let's just try again. Will we hit the Xatu with an Ice Punch and take it down? Executor, again, a one shot with Ice Punch. Jinx, okay, let's go for Bite. Again, I do just like my moves in a certain order, so we're just going to sort that out. And it puts us to sleep, so that's not great. Double Slap only hits us 2 times, and we do wake up on the next turn and take out Jinx. So that's awesome. Slowbro, can we take it out? No, we can't. It uses Curse, so that's fine. And finally, Xatu. Ice Punch again should be a one shot, and it is. So that's Will beaten, so that's quite consistent there. Will isn't an issue at all. So let's just move on now to Ariados. I'll go for Surf, and we do take it out. Venomoth's next, and I'm going to go for Surf again. And it hits with Psychic, so no Toxic this time, so that's great. Fortress is next. I'm going to go for Surf this time, and we one-shot, so that's awesome. Up next is Muck. Earthquake again should be a one-shot, and it is. That's great. Now, can we take out the Crobat? I'm going to go for Ice Punch, and we put it into red health. He uses a full restore. Surf I use this time, and Ice Punch does do more, but we do take out the Crobat. Thankfully, we didn't miss after that double team, and that's Koga dealt with. Up next is Bruno, so this should be fairly easy, to be honest with you. Hitmontop's first. I'm going to go for Surf first of all. We don't take it out. It goes for Dig. I'm just going to go for Earthquake, and we do take out the Hitmontop. Hitmonchan, I'm going to go for Earthquake, and it's not a one-shot. Thunder Punch really doesn't do anything against us, and I finish it off with Bite. Up next is Hitmonlee. Surf doesn't take it out. High Jump Kick does quite a bit of damage, and we're about at half health here, just under half maybe. Surf, oh, my champ hits with Cross Chop, and that almost took us out there. But thankfully Onyx should be a one shot, and it is, and that's Bruno. So Bruno pretty difficult there. It could have taken us out if Machamp got a critical hit, but we move on to Karen, and she can be a little bit trolly, but we are at quite a high level. Surf does about half. Second Surf we hit, so that's great. It did hit us with Sand Attack. Now against a Vileplume, I go for Earthquake by mistake. Thankfully it does miss the Stun Spore, and Ice Punch does enough just to take it out. Gengar should be a one shot with Earthquake, and it is, so that's awesome. Up next she's going to send out Murkrow, and I go for Ice Punch. Ice Punch takes it out, so that's great. And then finally we move on to the Houndoom. Surf, awesome, we take it out. So that is Karen and the Elite Four trainers dealt with. Time to move on to Lance, and he's going to start off with Gyarados. So I'm going to go for Bite just to see if we can get a flinch. Goes for Flail, which doesn't do any damage really. Oh, that's a critical hit, Hyper Beam, and I do finish the Gyarados off with a Bite. That's not great. Hopefully this Dragonite will be a one shot with Ice Punch. It is, so that's awesome. Don't know if we needed the critical hit, but let's see with his second Dragonite. So no, so we didn't need that critical hit, so that's awesome. And then the final Dragonite is again a one shot with Ice Punch, so that's awesome. And then Charizard's out next. Surf takes it out, and last but not least is Aerodactyl, as long as it doesn't outspeed, and that's awesome. Ice Punch takes out Lance, and that is the Elite Four and the champion. Feraligatr has done it, and what a run this has been. Honestly, apart from a couple of hiccups here and there, it has been a solid run. I think it has been the easier run when compared to Typhlosion. I just think it just hasn't had the same walls to face, and there hasn't really been an instance where I've had to reset over and over and over again. The rival fight, maybe the third rival fight, was probably the closest we got to an actual wall, but all I needed to do was just teach it a couple of other moves and then level up a little bit as well. Feraligatr really has been impressive here. It got a play time of 7 hours and 54 minutes. It was probably about a 3 hour run. Obviously, I have the game on 4 times speed, so it probably took me maybe about 2 or 3 hours to actually complete the playthrough. So it was fairly easy, to be honest with you. Unlike the next playthrough, I imagine, where I try and beat Pokemon Crystal with a Meganium, whereas Feraligatr really didn't have any walls to overcome. Typhlosion only had the odd one or two. Meganium, it's almost like everything is set up against it. I will discuss more of that in the next video. Without any further ado, it's time to take on the true end level boss of the game by going over to Kanto. Before that though, a little bit of unfinished business here. I want to see if I can beat Sagely and finally get the HM for Flash. I go for Ice Punch and thankfully it is a one shot. Up next is Bellsprout and I go for Ice Punch again, and luckily it's probably a range, but we do get the one shot. Hoot I'm quite nervous about. I do go for Bite to get the flinch, but thankfully it is a one shot there. So up next we do go to Kanto, and I would love to play some Mortal Kombat music here, but unfortunately I can't because of copyright, so I'm going to do it myself. Test your might. Then we get Alakazam. The hyper potion hits us now. Then we go for bite now. Erika's next. Ice punch takes it down. Now we hit Blame We Surf. Now we're on blue. So yeah, I hope that's better than the Mortal Kombat theme. Unfortunately, I couldn't use it due to copyright, but now we take on Bugcatcher Ed, and I go for Ice Punch against its Beedrill, and we do take it down with a one shot, so that's fairly lucky there. Second Beedrill is another one shot, so finally I'm going to go for Surf since we are out of PP, and yeah, we take it down, so that's awesome. Now it's time to move on to blue. So Pidgeot's first, and I'm going to go for Ice Punch. Should hopefully be a one shot. It's not. Okay. So it uses Mirror Move, which is fine, and we do take out the Pidgeot. Executor is next, and Ice Punch again isn't a one shot. Okay. So a second Ice Punch does take it down, but that's a little bit concerning. Alakazam's next. Bite, again, it isn't a one shot, but we do take it down with a second bite. And now we are onto Gyarados, so we don't really have anything for it, so I'm just going to go for Ice Punch, and now I'm going to go for Bite just to see if we can get some flinches. Hyper Beam doesn't do too much damage, so I'll go for Ice Punch again. Blue uses a full restore, which isn't great. I'm going to go for Ice Punch. We haven't managed to get the freeze just yet. Take it down to red health, and again Blue uses a full restore. So all I can really do is just hack away at its health with Bite, with Ice Punch. We're in orange health, so a little bit concerning, but we do take out the Gyarados. Rhydon's next. Surf takes it out, so that's great. Arcanine could outspeed with extreme speed, and it does. 29 isn't great, but hopefully Surf, and it does take it out. So I'm not happy with how that battle went, to be honest with you, so I am going to level up, because if we had that much problems with blue, red is probably going to take us down fairly easily. So I'll just battle some of the wild Pokemon outside Mount Silver. So there's a lot of Ripidash here, and it's quite decent. You know, there's quite a few evolved Pokemon, so it doesn't take me too long to level up. I get to level 72, which was the level we were at with Typhlosion. I'm going to go for Earthquake against Pikachu, and we do take it down, so that's great. Up next is Venusaur, so I'm a little bit scared about this. Ice Punch does about just over half, but we get the freeze, which is great, and it's a free hit KO, so that's not too bad. We were quite lucky with the freeze, I imagine. Go for Bite against Espeon, and I'll go for Surf. We don't quite take it out. Psychic does quite a bit of damage to us, but we do finally take on the Espeon. Earthquake really doesn't do much against the Snorlax, and it gets a crit and takes us out, and that's quite frustrating there because we got a little bit lucky with Venusaur. So I'll got no choice but to just restart the match, go for Earthquake against the Pikachu, and it takes it out. So the Pikachu's going to be a non-factor in this. Venusaur's next, and Ice Punch, it's doing around half, goes for Solar Beam, and wow, that does so much damage. That is quite brutal. Espeon's next, and it's going to outspeed and hit with Psychic, I imagine. No, it doesn't outspeed. It flinches, so that's great. But we don't take it out, and then Psychic does finally take us out. And we did have multiple Pokemon to face there. I'm going to try again, just to see if maybe we can get a little bit of luck here. Ice Punch. Again, it's a free shot. And Solar Beam, wow, takes us to 10 HP. And again, yeah, I think we've lost this one. So let's just see against Espeon, and it goes for Psychic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try once more. I'm going to try and mix up my strategy a little bit. If we maybe go for Bite on the Venusaur and get maybe a couple of lucky flinches, maybe then we'll have a much better standing. So I'll go for Bite, don't get the flinch, hits with Solar Beam, and yeah, it takes us out. So I'm being stubborn now. I do need to level up. So I'll do that. I'll get to level 74. That was the level we were at with Typhlosion. So hopefully, let's see if it goes better this time. Go for Earthquake against Pikachu. Venusaur's next. Ice Punch is probably doing about half. Is it a 2-shot? Okay, it is. Now, I don't know whether we would have needed that critical hit, but we come to the Espeon with full health, so that's great. I go for Surf by mistake, and Psychic does quite a bit of damage to us. We don't get the flinch, and it does take us down to 45 HP. So up next is Snorlax, so let's have a look here. I go for Ice Punch, we don't get the freeze, but we do get a crit, and it takes us down with Body Slam. So I'm going to try again, because I'm stubborn as hell. So Earthquake, again, one shot to the Pikachu. Next, the Venusaur, is it a 2-shot, is it a 3-shot? We're about to find out. Ice Punch does about half. And okay, so that might be a bad range. It takes us out with Solar Beam, and it does an awful amount of damage there. So again, I think we've lost this one as well. So I'm going to go for Bite on the Espeon, and Psychic, yeah, takes us out. Okay, so I'll teach Return, and I level up, because I do try this so many times, and it's just not consistent. We're just not getting the win that we need. So we're at level 75, we've got Return. Can we beat Red? So Return on the Venusaur probably does about the same as Ice Punch. So between the two, we finally take out the Venusaur. Now, what does Return do to Espeon? Okay, gets it to orange health. It goes for Reflect, and so I move to Surf, and we do take on the Espeon. We do take out the Espeon. Snorlax, Return doesn't do too much, obviously, because of Reflect. Body Slam does quite a bit of damage to us, and Reflect does finally fade. It goes to sleep now, so I'm just going to go for Return. It does fairly decent damage, to be fair. Snore really doesn't do anything. Earthquake gets a crit, so that's great, and a second Earthquake does take out the Snorlax. So we're finally at the Blastoise here. Return, Surf gets a crit, and we are taken down by the Blastoise. And that was the furthest that I got. I tried multiple times. This was me at level 74 beforehand, and I just got taken out by the Snorlax. So I'm going to go again. Let's just see, and then I may have to level up. So Venusaur, we get a crit, so that's great. It doesn't quite finish it off, but we get the 2-shot there. Next is Espeon, so Return, gets it to orange health again. Psychic does quite a bit of damage, but we do take it out with a second Return. Next is Snorlax. Return, does decent damage, and it's a 3-shot, so that's great. We're at 81 HP. That's not so great. Blastoise is next. We get that crit, so that's awesome. Goes for Surf. We're at 44 HP. And finally is the Charizard. Is Surf a 1-shot? It is. Awesome. Red has been defeated. That was the first time that Feraligatr really had to come up against a wall, to be fair. It was really difficult. So in the end, we did beat Pokemon Crystal with the Feraligatr. Red was quite awful and was more difficult than it was against Typhlosion. And I mean, a lot of it was the fact that we were really unlucky. but at a certain point you can't really blame luck. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Really do appreciate that. Next is going to be Meganium, so let's see how we get on there.